Well, we begin with some breaking news that's coming out of Iran, and it is coming from state media. As they report, explosions have been heard in Bandar Abbas. Of course, Bandar Abbas is in the south of the country and was under attack last night as well. It does come just hours after President Trump said he would likely hit Iran again on Wednesday night. That is this evening. Let's get straight to White House correspondent Kimberly Halkett, who joins us from Washington, D.C. What are you hearing from there, Kimberly?
The White House has said nothing about any sort of strikes or military action. In fact, there's been no operational announcement from the White House, nor has there been one from the Pentagon. Certainly, we know that the U.S. president in Ankara said that he believes that negotiations are over and that he does not want to deal with Iran anymore. But as for beyond that, intimating that there were intricate operational plans that were set to ensue, the U.S. president only gave a deliberately ambiguous sense of what could come. He said that there was the possibility of strikes on Iran, that it could happen on the eve of Wednesday going into Thursday morning. He said that we intend to hit them hard again tonight, and he stopped short of saying, though, whether or not he had already authorized such strikes. But what I can tell you from my experience covering these sorts of operations is that they are already in the works, and there is a fair amount of planning that needs to take place in advance, hours in advance. So even as the U.S. president was indicating that he had not yet ordered the operation, it's likely that he already had, given the buildup that's necessary in order to carry out this type of strikes that the U.S. president was suggesting was imminent, given the scale. What we know is that the U.S. president said we intend to hit them hard. That certainly signals that he had authorized a magnitude larger than we'd seen on Tuesday evening. But again, with regard to an operational announcement, there has not yet been one. We do know that we watch very carefully for any sort of news coming out of U.S. Central Command for further indications of what this could look like. But the U.S. president insists that when it comes to the strikes, that these are retaliatory in nature, given the fact the U.S. president said that it was Iran that had broken the ceasefire that has been fragile and has already experienced tit-for-tat strikes between the United States and Iran since its inception. What we know is that the U.S. president is blaming Iran for the retaliatory strikes the United States took on Tuesday, saying that it was the Iranians that struck first on commercial vessels in the Strait of Hormuz. And that is why the U.S. is responding on Tuesday and, according to reports now coming out of Iran, again on Wednesday evening.
Hold that thought, Kimberly. Kimberly Halkett at the White House lawn. Let's get to the background to all this, because President Trump has been threatening more attacks against Iran earlier, as Kimberly was saying. He did go on to say that he didn't think that the war would start again. He made the comments on the last day of the NATO summit, of course, in Ankara, Trump calling Iranian officials dishonorable, and even hinted at the possibility of seizing Iran's Karg Island. But he did leave the door open for diplomacy, saying he'll let his negotiators continue talks with Tehran.
Mr. President, it seems that the war with Iran may start again. What do you expect from your European allies?
I don't think it's going to start again. I think it's going to go very quickly. They hit a couple of ships, and so we hit them much harder. When they hit, we hit 10 times harder. You know, we hit much harder than they do. We have a lot better equipment than they do. We may even, somebody asked before, do you think you'll hit them tonight? I said, we might, yeah, we might. But when they hit, we hit, you know. It's what we use their language, we speak their language. No, I don't think so. I think anything that happens is going to be over very quickly.
And indeed, let's get back to Kimberly. Oil prices already up on this as well, seeing what Brent crude up to $78.74 the barrel here. But, you know, Kimberly, it is against this backdrop of really unusually harsh language coming out of the president today, really coming about during that NATO summit. Been talking about Iran's leadership, its negotiating team, as saying that they were scum, cuckoo, and a little bit crazy here as well. He also said the ceasefire is over. Now, what is the White House position? Is this memorandum of understanding dead, or is there still a diplomatic channel open?
It's clear that the White House as a whole, as in the Trump administration, is efforting to keep that diplomatic channel open. While the U.S. president has expressed his frustration in the most express terms, as you just outlined, it's clear that the White House believes that there is still that pathway for diplomacy, albeit it is extremely fragile and in tatters, given the fact that the U.S. president has said he's done. He thinks it's over. He says he doesn't want to deal with them anymore, meaning Iran. But to be clear, the U.S. president wasn't dealing directly with the Iranians. It was his technical teams, and that there has not been any face-to-face talks between the two sides that has occurred recently. And so what we know is that the U.S. president is, when he says he's done, it means that he's basically handed it off in exasperation to the lower teams. For example, he cited his son-in-law, Jared Kushner, as well as Steve Witkoff, his envoys, who have been handling the bulk of diplomacy. Of course, there's also J.D. Vance, the U.S. vice president, as well. So in terms of that, he has not ruled out that those gentlemen would be negotiating in the future. But clearly, the U.S. president expressing his own exasperation, distancing himself from any future talks that were opened by the Memorandum of Understanding, and of course put in place that ceasefire that, even as the U.S. president says he believes is essentially over, he left open that window for diplomacy and a channel where they can keep on talking. So the U.S. president, again, saying he believes it's a waste of time, but leaving it open for his son-in-law and his colleague Steve Witkoff, that if they believe there's still an opportunity to talk, that he will allow them to do so.
And Kimberly, of course, President Trump had been warning that the U.S. could strike Iran as soon as this evening, Wednesday night. And we have these reports coming from various Iranian state news agencies saying that there have been explosions heard in the south, in Bandar Abbas, which was under attack 24 hours ago or thereabouts, and also further on the other side of the Strait of Hormuz in another Iranian city, which is called Sirik as well. So, you know, is this a signal of further action, or is it more an effort to sort of prod the Iranians, pressure them to give concessions at the negotiating table?
There's no question the U.S. president has been using the military action by the United States to force further diplomacy. He has always maintained that his style is peace through strength. And while there certainly isn't a broad effort for peace at the moment, he is certainly employing his maximum pressure campaigns that he believes results in getting sides talking. The U.S. president has been very clear that he believes that this is a desired goal is to get Iran to comply with the demands of the Memorandum of Understanding. The U.S. president believes that there is a need for freedom of navigation and that there is not Iranian sovereignty over the Strait of Hormuz, something that Iran has repeatedly claimed to the contrary. And as you point out, it is that price of Brent crude that is something the White House is watching very carefully. The fact that there is a difficulty of Iran, or rather of the United States and the rest of the international community, to get those commercial ships navigating through the strait. The White House believes that this is essential in terms of freedom of navigation, and that's why there has been this ongoing push by the White House to try and get the two sides talking so that they are able to maintain something that Iran says is distinctly their own.
Kimberly, bear with us. Just going to say that we've got the Mehen news agency saying that air defenses are engaged in countering hostile targets near Bandar Abbas. That's what we have from them. But it does again come against this background of Trump saying he's not sure he wants to make a deal with Iran, with negotiators still trying to find out how they can work out that final agreement between the two countries. Now, Iran's foreign ministry says that the Memorandum of Understanding was based on, quote, commitment for commitment. U.S. officials say negotiators are still working in, quote, good faith toward an agreement. And Pakistan says it remains ready to mediate, adding that shared dialogue and diplomacy are necessary to achieve peace.